What does a 17-year-old Mercedes-Benz CLK coupe cost to run? I've had this car for 3 years now, and it's been my dependable daily driver, my commuter, and my car that was taking me on holiday. I've been to France in it, I've been all over the country in it. We all know a worrier who will say something like, "Ooh, my cousin had an old Mercedes and he had to sell his left kidney to keep that car running. Why don't you just get a nice new Ford Puma on finance?" Or something like, "Well, they're lovely cars, but once the left phalange goes on them, they're as good as scrap, really." Well, of course, these people mean well. They're trying to scare you off buying one of these cars, and I'd like to put this little one piece of anecdotal evidence out there for you of man has CLK, drives it for 3 years, and the running costs are relatively reasonable. So what I'm going to do in this video is basically run you through all of the servicing, maintenance and repair costs that I've had on this car over a period of 3 years and around 17 or 18,000 miles. I got this car on 23,900 miles, which admittedly is very low mileage, and it's now on 41,776. So I'm just going to find a nice little spot to pull in, and I'll talk you through all of the costs. So I have actually already covered the first 18 months or so of the ownership of this car in another video, so I'll just give you a summary of the costs and what's happened there in the first year and a half. Servicing, it's had a B service and an A service, so that's the big service and the little service. That's all your basic stuff like oil and filter, and then air filter, cabin filter, and it's also had a brake fluid change as well. And that total cost for those two services was £558.86. Consumables in the first 18 months, so that's a new set of tyres, which was about £400. They were Dunlop Sportmax RT2, which are brilliant, but they're kind of coming up for replacement again already. Wiper blades, new battery, and the rear brake discs and pads. Now the total cost for all of those was £751.38. And the only things that went wrong with the car in the first 18 months or so were the gearbox multi-plug, the offside front coil spring, and the instrument cluster needed repairing. Total costs for those things was £261.68. So with that quick summary over, we can now go into the next sort of 18 months or so of ownership of this car. And you've got to remember that running a car, it's all relative depending on what you're used to and what other cars you've had before. So this is a premium car, and back in its day it was a, equivalent of a 50 or 60 grand car, even though this is only the 1.8 compressor engine, which was the lowest in the range. It still was a very expensive and posh car. So the running costs are not going to be the same as a Nissan Micra. The first thing that really came up was the A service in June of 2023. Now that was basically an engine oil and oil filter change. And then I got the service book stamped, and it was then fully stamped. That's a really cool thing, actually. I love that when you get the fully stamped service book. I've had to actually order another service book now, a new Mercedes one for about £10, £11 I think it was. So that A service cost £168. I then had, around that time, all of the MOT advisories done. There were some that I mentioned in the last video on the suspension. Offside front tie rod and a lower suspension arm ball joint, but they replaced the whole lower arm on the offside front as well. The tie rod cost £158 to be fitted, and the lower arm cost £204. And then I had a four-wheel alignment done because they were off, and that was £70. Now you're always supposed to get the wheels aligned after any suspension works. I also then had the front discs and pads done for the brakes on this car because they were looking pretty ropey. There was a bit of a lip on them. They were getting quite old. I think they were the original discs. Now they are the special sports brakes with the drilled holes, the speed holes for cooling and making sure this car stops with all its compressor engine power, and that cost £246.70. A new set of wiper blades. I tend to replace wiper blades every 2 years, and I always get the Bosch Aero Twin because they're just the best wipers going, really. Now I got those for £1.29 because I had I think it was like a 25 quid voucher for Halfords from my car insurance renewal. I also had the aircon serviced, basically had it regassed. It was working okay, but it just wasn't quite cold enough. And also aircon for me actually is more useful in the winter in this country for demisting these cars. This car's not that bad. It doesn't steam up too much, but old cars, you always do get a little bit of that, and because this car is obviously the super cool pillarless car, you might get a little bit more moisture inside. And I had one of those, what they call like scent bomb things, run through the system as well, which get rid of the sort of old fusty smell of the aircon, and that cost £87.50 for that service. Then at the end of 2023 I got the car MOT'd, and it passed with no advisory, so I was very happy with that. It's basically now an advisory free car, until the end of 2024. So the 3-year totals, all those costs added up together, you're looking at, for servicing, so that's 1 B service, 2 A services, aircon and brake fluid over 3 years, £784.50. Then consumables, so that's tyres, brakes, battery, wiper blades, everything that's needed to be replaced on this car but is expected to be replaced, that's cost me £999.37. And then finally, repairs, suspension arm, tie rod, coil spring with the wheel alignment, gearbox plug and the instrument cluster repair. That came to £693.68. And then the total, if you add all that up, you're looking at £2,477.55. And that is around about £825 a year or 14 pence a mile to run this car. A couple of other notes on costs. Fuel, well, this car is it's certainly the most economical petrol CLK you can get. It's obviously nothing compared to some of the diesel models, but it's been averaging 32 mpg since I had it, and I've been logging every single fuel fill up on Fuelio and calculating it all because I am a nerd like that. And I've used 2,527 litres of your finest unleaded fuel, which has cost me £3,625. It's not too bad, is it, for personal freedom and transport to anywhere you like in the country, I think. Tax, I have covered that previously, but I currently pay £34.50 a month for tax on this car, which is okay compared to some of the higher costs. It can be £700 a year on some cars now, can't it, for the older cars? But it sucks compared to like these people who have like £20 a year or £0 a year tax. What's going to be needed next on this car? As I said earlier, the tyres are getting low on tread, especially the rears. They're down to sort of 2.5 millimetres. So I am going to need to replace the full set of tyres because you can't, because it's got wide rear wheels and slightly narrower front wheels, you can't swap the tyres around and get an even wear. And obviously because it's rear wheel drive, the rears wear out faster. So that means I am going to have to replace all 4 tyres. I think probably what I'll do is get some really nice Michelin Pilot Sport 5, which are basically the best tyres you can get, looking at about 600 quid for a set of them. But I've really enjoyed these Dunlops on this car, and it is a really nice handling car with those tyres on, and it grips so well. And I think, why not treat it to the very best tyres that you can get basically for a road kind of car. Something else I'd like to get done is the alloy wheels. I'd like to get them refurbed. Now, they are the original wheels that came with this car. Now, they were on like the sport pack that gave you the big brakes and all that, but they've got like a million spokes on them, and they are super hard to keep clean, and they often look pretty grubby and ropey. And they've, over the years, mostly with the previous owners, they've curbed the wheels. So I'd like to get them redone, maybe powder coated or something. I would be interested to know what it's cost you guys. You guys owning all these different engines, obviously, because like the CLK, it was available as a convertible. It was available with various different V6 engines and a V8, and then of course you had the AMG models. So all you guys have got all these different models. Comment below, and what has it cost you to run it, and how long have you had it for, and how many miles have you done, and has it been worth it? Have you enjoyed the ownership experience? And if you'd like to follow me on Instagram, then that's the handle down there. And thank you very much for watching the video and all your support over these 3 years of the channel. And this car has been there through for the whole time, and hopefully it will continue to be a big part of this channel going forward. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.